Now, New York's #1 news. Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The innocent faces of the Florida school shooting victims, athletes and scholars, a football coach, a geography teacher, an athletic director, all gunned down without warning in the deadliest school shooting massacre since Sandy Hook. Today, we learned about the victims and their heroic actions.
I'm alive today because of him.
This is the alleged shooter, Nikolas Cruz, stood in chains in court today as more evidence emerges showing he was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode.
I think everyone in the school had it back of their mind. If anyone was supposed to do it, it was most likely going to be him.
And good evening at 5 o'clock. I'm Diana Williams.
I'm David Navarro in for Sade. With every new detail we learn about this tragedy, there are mounting new questions.
Late this afternoon, the suspected gunman, 19-year-old Nikolas Cruz, appeared in a Florida courtroom. He faces 17 counts of premeditated murder. He was held without bond, and Cruz's lawyer afterwards said that he's a broken person and feels sad and remorseful.
All this as we learn disturbing new details about Cruz's past. The Anti-Defamation League now claiming Cruz had ties to a white supremacist group.
We're also learning more about the victims. 17 people killed, 15 others hurt.
Any minute now, we're expecting police to hold a news conference where they may provide an exact timeline of events. Our coverage begins, though, right now with Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger.
He's live for us down in Parkland, Florida tonight, where a large vigil is going to be held in about an hour from now. Right, Josh?
Well, first of all, Diana, as we wait for that news conference, we do have some more information courtesy of a court document that apparently Nikolas Cruz has confessed to authorities to the entire massacre, and telling them that he took an Uber to the school yesterday, packed that weapon and extra magazines in a duffel bag and a backpack, and then when he was done, hid them to blend in with the crowd. More on that as we get it, but I want to show you what's happening now. This is a very large amphitheater, part of a Broward County public park, which is in about an hour going to be the scene of a dramatic vigil for members of this school community. But they've been here for hours already, struggling to process what they've been through. At 2:35 on the dot, the silence in this public park was even more deafening than yesterday's gunfire. It was 2:35 yesterday that life, as anyone here knew it, changed. 2:35 yesterday that Liam Kiernan lost his best friend, Gina.
We sat together in Spanish class, and now she's going to be an empty desk. She's going to be an empty desk now. She's not going to be here anymore.
Are you Nikolas Jacob Cruz?
Yes, ma'am.
Today, the teenager behind the carnage appeared in court for the first time, charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder, one for every single victim.
We will interview every single student or every person in that school that possibly knew something or might not know they know something.
Investigators say the gunman, who'd been expelled from this school last year, walked in just before dismissal when the doors weren't locked. He set off smoke bombs and pulled the fire alarms. And when students emerged from their classrooms, he opened fire. Authorities say he'd legally purchased the AR-15 he used, despite what investigators call escalating signs of mental illness. The president today promised action when it comes to securing America's schools.
I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you.
Healing. It's something no one here can even envision.
I can't believe that I'm here right now, and why did I get out and she didn't, and why did this happen? Like, we could have done so much to stop this. I'm here honoring my friend, and I'm so sorry that she didn't get out. I miss her so much. It's unreal.
And back live, they've been putting red and white ribbons on every tree here, and they're setting up the stage for what will be a very, very large and emotional vigil. Thousands of people expected. Bear in mind, this is a school that serves 3,000 students and their associated family members, a very large park, lots of media from around the world. But in about an hour, we expect this park to be jam-packed with mourners as this community, this suburban South Florida community, struggles to understand why. We're live in Parkland, Florida. Josh Einiger, Channel 7. Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Josh. So difficult to listen to those young people. And clearer pictures now emerging this afternoon of the 17 people killed inside that Florida school. Everyone from a 14-year-old freshman still navigating high school life to a fearless football coach. One of the victims, 35-year-old teacher Scott Beagle, who grew up on Long Island. He died saving students in Florida. Kristen Thorne live in Dix Hills with his story. Kristen.
Dave, Scott Beagle was from this neighborhood here in Dix Hills. It's unclear how long ago he left Long Island and moved to Florida. On his Facebook page, it says he attended the University of Miami in Florida, and it appears that he has resided in Florida for quite some time. We did speak with some family friends who say that his mother still lives in this neighborhood, but she, of course, is in Florida planning her son's funeral. The stories that rip at our hearts are the ones detailing the fear and terror at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. But the stories that last in our memories are the ones about those who stopped more people from being hurt. One of them was geography teacher Scott Beagle. Student Kelsey Friend, speaking on Good Morning America today, credited the Long Island native with saving her life.
He unlocked the door and let us in. I had thought he was behind me. When he opened the door, he had to relock it so we can stay safe. I think I get the chance to.
Might have saved your life.
Beagle was a camp counselor at Camp Starlight in Pennsylvania. The camp's Facebook page today featured a picture of Beagle with a prayer. Kelsey says Beagle will forever be her hero.
And the door was still open, and the shooter probably didn't know we were in there because Mr. Beagle was laying on the floor. So if the shooter would have came into the room, I probably wouldn't be speaking with you right now.
Coming up on Eyewitness News at 6, you'll hear from another student who says that Beagle saved her life. For now, we're live in Dix Hills. I'm Kristen Thorne, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, Scott Beagle wasn't the only administrator who literally gave his life for the students. Aaron Feist was the assistant football coach who also worked as a security guard at the school. When the gunshots rang out, Coach Feist used his body to shield students from the shooter.
Very selfless man. He was made sure that everybody else's needs were met before his own. He was a hard worker. He worked after school on the weekends, mowing lawns, just helping as many people out as possible. He had used himself to shield other, I believe it was 3 females that were in the line of fire. He used his body to shield them.
And I heard the shot, and then I saw the shooter run after Mr. Feist, and I saw Mr. Feist get shot.
And the other faculty member who was killed, athletic director Chris Hickson. He was shot inside the school but wound up dying in the hospital. 2 years ago, he was named Athletic Director of the Year.
So, what do we know about 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz? He was adopted as a baby, and both his adoptive parents are deceased. He was kicked out of school and living with friends, and he was angry, with little to lose. Eyewitness News reporter Jim Hoffer here with more on his troubled past and what could have been done to prevent him from getting a gun.
Diana, so many warning signs, and it's not that these signs were missed. It's that school administrators, police, neighbors, some of them, many of them, knew that Nicholas Cruz had violent tendencies, but by law, there was little they could do. The 19-year-old seen here minutes after his capture had a widely known reputation at his former high school as scary, troubled, obsessed with guns.
He was always weird, violent, aggressive.
Plenty of warning signs long before he went on his killing rampage. Bullets in a backpack that got him expelled. A threat to, quote, shoot up a school. Those who knew Nicholas Cruz say he fell deeper into darkness after his adoptive mother suddenly died from flu-related illness last November.
I think everyone in the school had it back of their mind. If anyone was supposed to do it, it was most likely going to be him.
The anger, the threats, the guns reported to law enforcement, but with his firearms legally purchased and no crimes committed, there was little they could do.
If he legally owned a gun, we couldn't do anything about arresting him for having a gun.
Had Florida had an extreme risk protection order law, police may have been able to remove his guns based on his recent threatening behavior.
This type of extreme risk protection order allows you to collect evidence and go to court before something awful happens.
Connecticut and California already have the law. New York State does not. But just last month, an extreme risk protection order bill was introduced in Albany. It would allow law enforcement, through a court order, to force the surrender of any firearm in the possession of someone exhibiting violent or threatening behavior. The latest mass killer, known to torture animals, threaten people, exhibited all the warning signs needed for an extreme risk protection order. If only Florida had one.
If you know who's likely to be violent, you go before a judge and get the gun out of their hands before something like this happens.
These firearms restraining orders are not without their critics who say they violate civil rights. Meanwhile, the FBI says they were unable to identify who posted the YouTube threat that forewarned of the school massacre. We now know the, quote, professional school shooter was Nikolas Cruz. Diana?
Thanks, Jim. This was the 18th shooting inside an American school since the beginning of this year. And I want you to take a look at this calendar. Every single day in red, a gunshot went off in a school in this country. And on 3 of those days, there were actually 2 school shootings. This has not surprisingly reignited the debate over gun control. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers, including a number of Republicans, agree that something has to be done. But listen to the mother of one victim outside a community vigil this afternoon.
How do we allow a gunman to come into our children's school? How do they get through security? What security is there? There's no metal detectors. The gunman, a crazy person, just walks right into the school, knocks down the window of my child's door, and starts shooting her and killing her. President Trump, you say, what can you do? You can stop the guns from getting into these children's hands.
President Trump, in his 6-minute-plus statement, mentioning mental health several times, but never talking about gun control.
Well, many of the warning signs about Cruz revolve around his disturbing posts on social media. We talked with a company on Long Island that uses technology to track social media posts to spot these kinds of things. And it's being used in hundreds of schools nationwide. Ahead at 5:30, we'll explain more on how it works. World News with David Muir will have complete coverage of this massacre live from Florida right after Eyewitness News at 6. And you can find more information on the victims as well as a profile of the suspect at ABC7NY.
Good afternoon.
And we've got a press conference that's just now beginning down in South Florida. This is the Broward County Sheriff, Scott Israel. Let's listen to what the sheriff has to say.
I'm then going to introduce Peter Forcelli, the SAC of ATF, and he's going to talk about the origin of the rifle. And then lastly, you'll hear from a special agent in charge of the FBI, Rob Lasky, and he's going to expound a little bit more on the tip. Then I'll come back to the podium, we'll answer some questions. So I wanted to start out by telling you an Uber car dropped off the suspect at 2019 yesterday, 2:19 p.m. at Stoneman Douglas High School. The suspect entered the east stairwell, that's building 12, with a rifle inside a black, soft case. The suspect exited the stairwell, pulled the rifle out of the case. At 2:21 hours and 33 seconds, the suspect readied his rifle and began shooting into rooms 1215, 1216, 1214. He went back to 1216, back to 1215, and then to 1213. The suspect then took the west stairwell to the second floor and shot one victim in room 1234 on the second floor. The suspect then took the east stairwell to the third floor. He dropped his rifle and backpack, ran down the stairs. He exited building 12 and ran towards the tennis courts, and then took a southbound turn on foot. The suspect crossed fields and ran west, along with others who were fleeing, and tried to mix in with the group that were running away, fearing for their lives. The suspect arrived at the Walmart store. He bought a drink at the Subway and then left the Walmart on foot. The suspect went to McDonald's, sat down for a short period of time. This was at 3:01 p.m. and he left on foot. At 3:41 p.m., 40 minutes after he departed from the McDonald's, the suspect was detained at 4700 Wyndham Lakes Drive in Coral Springs by an officer from the Coconut Creek Police Department. He was taken into custody without incident. Today, we've interviewed between the FBI, the Broward Sheriff's Office, and a significant amount of investigators from many other agencies, FDLE, a lot of local law enforcement. So over 2,000 people were interviewed, and we continue. This is a fluid investigation. We have so many facts coming in, some true, some unsubstantiated, some rumors. It's going to take a lot of time to sift through what's true, what's accurate, and what's not. I wanted to honor the deceased victims of this horrific killing. I'm going to do my best to pronounce the names accurately. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce the names exactly how the families do, but I thought it's very important. I want to pay homage to these families and to the victims. Carmen Shentrup, Meadow Pollock, Peter Wang, Nicholas Dworet, Christopher Hickson, my very, very, very special friend who I'll miss, Aaron Feiss, Luke Hoyer, Alana Petty, Jamie Gutenberg, Martin Duque Anguiano, Alyssa Al-Hadef, Helena Ramsey, Scott Beagle, Joaquin Oliver, Carol Loughran, Gina Montalto, and Alexander Schachter. May they rest in peace, and may God comfort their families. At this time, Special Agent in charge of ATF, Peter Forselli, will speak about the firearm.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the men and women from ATF, I want to extend my condolences to the families of the victims and to the people of the community. And I also ask that you keep in your thoughts and prayers the first responders who responded out to this scene. 30 plus years in law enforcement, I can tell you it was a difficult one. The firearm that was utilized in this event was purchased lawfully here in the state of Florida just short of a year ago by the individual who was charged with this crime. We're here to help the Broward County Sheriff's Office follow up on any leads that may pertain to the firearm or anything else that they need. And again, I ask that you keep the folks who responded to this scene as well as the families of the victims in your thoughts and prayers as we get through these difficult days. Thank you.
Special Agent in charge Lasky addressed some of the questions you had today about tips received regarding the suspect. Mr. Lasky is going to expound upon some of that information.
Good afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to provide some additional information about the tip we spoke about this morning. On September 25th, 2017, the FBI field office in Jackson, Mississippi, received a tip about a comment posted to a YouTube account by someone with the username Nicholas Cruz, spelled Nikolascruz. The comment said, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." There was no additional information about the particular time, location, or further identifiers about the person who posted the comment. The complainant had provided the same information to YouTube. YouTube removed the comment. After receiving this information, FBI Jackson conducted an interview of the person who made the complaint. This person lives in Mississippi, has no connection to South Florida, and has no knowledge about the person who posted the comment. The FBI also conducted internal database reviews and open source checks. No additional information was found to positively identify the person who posted this comment. There was no connection found to South Florida. Moving forward, We will continue to gather all information about the subject as we try to identify his motives, his associates, and his actions leading up to yesterday's events. We are looking into his social media posts, his movements, his conversations leading up to the shooting, as well as any other indicators that may be out there. Again, my heart goes out to the victims, the families, and the friends, and everybody else who suffered by this cowardly and horrific act. Sheriff.
I want to take this opportunity to thank this amazing group of people flanking me, your elected officials, who came from places as far as Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and just came down here. The calls I've received from Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, from Mayor Beam Furr, Michael Udine, Commissioner, and on and on and on. I can't thank them enough. They just want to see safety in Broward County. To all of you, thank you. I will be going over at 6 o'clock tonight to Pine Trails to a vigil for those that passed away. I know some of you are going to heed my remarks, and I know some of you are not, but I'm going to say them anyway. You need to respect the privacy of these families. These families are going through the most horrific time in their lives. And if they say they don't want to talk to you, respect them. Don't move forward with your camera. Don't move forward with your microphone. Let these families be. Let these families heal. They deserve that. Please honor them. Many of them have called me and asked me to transfer this message, and I hope you'll consider listening. Many of you would have done it anyway. Some of you might not. Please respect these families. They lost children. They lost loved ones. Could you imagine what they're going through? Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Did he belong to a white nationalist group? Have you been able to confirm that? Because one's claiming him as a member.
It's not confirmed at this time. There's so much. We've heard that. We're looking into that. And we'll just keep following on.
Did you speak to anyone at the McDonald's? And have you interviewed that person, if so?
He might have. I don't know at this time.
Two questions. First of all, would that make this a hate crime? And also, you had mentioned yesterday 2 people shot outside the school. How does that fit into the narrative?
Well, it fits in perfectly. He could have shot them. He could have been within the school. They could have been outside. You know, this is an AR-15. This is a powerful rifle and could have easily gone through a door or shot while the door was open. So we're still examining video. It's a great question. It's something we've asked ourselves. Within a day or two, we will have the exact, answer to that. But at this time, it doesn't change or alter the timeline at all.
Sheriff, if it turns out that he was a member of this white nationalist group, would that classify any of these?
It certainly could.
The rooms that were targeted, were they targeted for any particular reason?
Yes. He bought the weapon in Coral Springs at a dealership called Sunrise Tactical.
Sir, you mentioned releasing some surveillance video.
No, I didn't mention release. I didn't talk about releasing any video. We're examining video, and we might release information we recover or capture from the video. But at this time, we have no plans to release any type of surveillance video. I also want to acknowledge Superintendent Runcie. He's been with us from the.
Sheriff.
Yes. Yeah.
Sheriff, what type of first call?
I'm just gonna give way to the mic to Superintendent Runcie. He has some important things to say, and then I'll come back to the microphone.
Let me just first say, on behalf of the school board members and myself, our school board members here today, just reiterating what the sheriff has said. Please respect the privacy of our families as they go through this horrific situation. Again, we can't stress that enough. If you could honor them and respect them during these very difficult times. We've had hundreds of people today that have gone through our crisis services that we provided at several locations, 2 here in Parkland, 2 in Coral Springs. We'll continue to provide those tomorrow or the next day as necessary. Again, the school is closed from now throughout the weekend. We're going to be spending the next couple days figuring out what the path is to reopen the school and what type of logistical challenges we're going to have. relative to what's occurred in Building 12 on this site. Once that information becomes available, we will be providing it out to the parents and the families in the community and the media as well. Again, thank you for respecting our families. Give them the space and time to grieve and get through this very difficult time.
Sheriff, is there a reason he targeted certain rooms? He seemed to have gone to specific rooms and then upstairs. Have you found any reason for that?
That's what our detectives and that's what the FBI are doing. We're interviewing him. We'll be speaking to him and gathering that information. But I can't enlighten you on that right now.
Sheriff, do you know what time the first call came?
Already, someone that it was of interest for the security of the crew.
Well, he was dropped off by an Uber vehicle. And let me say this, at this point, the driver is not complicit in any way, shape, or form. The driver just simply picked up a fare and dropped the fare off at Stone. He walked into the school, and I don't know that anybody recognized him or knew who he was or at that point.
Mental health specifically. His previous condition, mental health.
I don't know anything at this time.
Sir, you said that there were still remains inside the school.
Do you have any reason to believe that a family member or anybody may have assisted him in this?
At this point, we have no reason. There are other people we want to certainly talk to. There are people of interest that might enlighten us as to why he did what he did. But at this point, at this time, there's no accomplice or nobody else that we're looking at from that perspective.
When you were a student here, was he required to...
You made no mention of what Senator Nelson...
I'm sorry, you're talking...
What Senator Nelson mentioned yesterday about him wearing a gas mask and a bulletproof vest. No mention of that in Babe's timeline. Can you tell us anything more about that, whether that was true or not, or when he took him off, put him on?
No, I have no reason to believe. I haven't seen the videos yet. I'm going to be briefed tomorrow on that, but I don't know that he had a mask on at any time.
When he was a student here, was he required to carry his belongings in a clear bag because of a fear of the teachers that he might bring a weapon into the school?
I've never heard that before.
Sir, this morning you said there were still remains inside the school. Have they been taken from the school, and has the school been cleared yet?
All the victims are at the medical examiner's office, and right now the medical examiner is doing a thorough investigation. As I said before, we want to release the victims to their families. We understand that the Sabbath is tomorrow, and we're very cognizant of that. But the main thing we want to do is we want to make sure there's a successful prosecution, and we want to go as fast as we can, but accurate is better than speedy.
Sure. And is the school still being swept, or is that in inspection?
The school is a crime scene, and we're examining the crime scene. Thank you.
How do you replace all our students, all of the people here?
That I read out? No. Some are. There are adults on the list as well.
Has the family he was staying with said anything, that they noticed anything like that, the room that he was staying in?
I'm not sure at this time. That's something that we'll examine.
Is that blood related with Nicholas? Are they blood brothers?
I've never heard that the first gentleman you named. I've never heard his name before. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are they blood related?
You have been listening to Broward County Sheriff and other law enforcement officials in Florida talking about the school massacre, and the highlight here is they laid out the timeline of events as far as they know it at this point. The suspect arrived at the school in an Uber car at about 2:19, and he came out and pulled a weapon out at that point, 2:21. He then began to shoot into the rooms and actually covered a wide gap of area at the campus as he went from room to room into area, eventually leaving. It's as much as we had already heard. But again, this starting at 2:19. At about 3:01, he was seen at a Walmart and then a McDonald's.
And isn't that amazing?
He
that
just tried to...
could, after shooting and doing that heinous crime, that he could go to a Walmart and McDonald's and so casually order a drink.
3:41, he was eventually apprehended by police.
Yeah. So what we don't know yet is why he picked that building in particular, why he covered those 3 floors. Hopefully we'll have more of that information. They do say they're talking to him. So our coverage is going to continue down in Florida. World News Tonight anchor David Muir is going to have certainly much more for us. And, of course, we'll have more at ABC 7 NY. We'll be right back after this.